along.
I completed your assignment.
Good. Concentrate. Do not let your mind wander. You've got it now. If you'd like to practice, and I think you should, perhaps best not to go flinging your classmates about the halls. I suggest having a go. Books here. Well done. I'm glad to see that you seem staunchly determined to master your spellcasting.
Sometimes it seems all roads lead to Hogsmeade.
Hello there. Nice to see you.
Helen. It seems... Thank you.
I don't know what you've done to make such powerful enemies, but please.
Hello. Good to see you outside the castle.
You too, Amit.
Welcome to the arms.
Hello.
Let's say I did.
Serona trusts me, and she thought our interests may be aligned.
Well, if Serona trusts you, very well, I may know of something that could help us both.
I'm listening.
In a tomb accessible, Ranrock and I.
Very well. I'll retrieve the relic if you promise to share Ranrock's plans with me.
We will have to trust each other. I, that you will not abscond with the relic, and you, that I'll share what I learn. Gather whatever supplies you may need, and meet me near the witch's tomb.
I'm ready.
Good. There's no time to lose.
What precisely is the relic I'm to retrieve?
A valuable heirloom known as the Helmet of Erdgott. The witch considered herself a collector and purchased the helmet as a trinket. She cared not what pain she caused the goblins. Goblins believe that the rightful owner of any object is its maker, not its purchaser.
Wizard kind see things differently. It's a wonder goblins and wizards have ever been able to work together.
The differences between our kinds are myriad.
They seem to be.
It may surprise you to know that I do not believe those differences always to be insurmountable. It is the reason I find myself traveling with you to this tomb today. Ah, and there it is. The witch's tomb.
Dreadful looking place, isn't it?
You can't imagine.
I will...
It all seems to...
I will remain here, eagerly awaiting your return. Please.
It's sealed. Lumos. Moths. Curious. Merlin's beard. This can't be the witch's tomb. Likely I need to go further.
Complete the tasks I've given you, and then meet me in my classroom to learn defending.
Accio.
It's typically used to cut an object.
Lumos.
A weapon when needed.
I have a feeling I'm not alone here. Accio. Incendio. Depart. Stay back. Incendio. Expelliarmus. Confringo. Revelio. Lumos. If I could power it somehow, it looks like it could be rotated. Lumos. This has a moth imprinted on it, same as the door. Lumos. Revelio. Get that platform closer. But how? Revelio. Accio. Revelio. What's that hanging there? Looks precarious. Down I go. No other way. Oh! Incendio. Confringo. Protego. Leviosa. Incendio. Lumos. Cabalso. Confringo. Lumos. Depulso. This looks even more complex. Depulso. Lumos. Lumos. Making this spin ought to raise that platform. That must be it. Revelio. Lumos. 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 I need to bring moths to the door. Lumos. Depulsor. Lumos. Revelli. Lumos. The witch's final resting place. Lodgok said the helmet, a dead Ashwell. Better show this to Lodgok. I know there's a mechanism to open this door.
All behaves. Behaves. Suka, behave, Suka, behaves.
Lodgok, the sarcophagus had been raided. I found no helmet, only a dead Ashwinder.
Damn, they got here first. We need to... I saw one of them.
I'll head there now.
Good. There's no... Get to that helmet before Rookwood does. To think those wretched thieves have their hands on such a relic.
That's just that's all I really want right there. That'll be fine.
Okay, everyone, let's have a class. Yeah, this is like one of the more, I would say, tricky classes of the semester. It's a bit more technical. So I'm glad to see you all here, and happy Friday. And of course, this is the class that I had the least time of the entire semester to prepare, so it's just like going crazy while my students were in a breakout room in my earlier class, like putting together handouts and figuring stuff out. So hopefully it will be reasonably fun. We've got some exercises to do, and then we'll try to get as much practice as we can today with the technical side, and we will revisit it on Wednesday as well, because this is going to be exactly the same kind of thing that we covered today that you're going to be doing in case number 4. All right? So it's a little bit of like buckle your seatbelt and let's get ready to do a lot of learning. And you probably will want to be taking some notes while you go along as well. So let me share my screen and get some slides up. Can you guys go? There. And slides. Okay, so first of all, today we are moving on to chapter 5. And what you'll remember last class from chapter 4 is that we talked about what we call the hierarchy of communication effects, right? And there was a model on page 3 about those effects, right? That we move from awareness to knowledge, liking, preference, conviction, and eventually to purchase. So what is really important, like a crucial piece of understanding to have for today's class, for all of you, is that when we are trying to get people to, build a relationship, let's say, with our brand, we don't usually just try to, like, boom, buy our stuff, right? If you think of all the different ads that you see on a day-to-day basis, very few of them present like a straightforward, just like sales, call to action, right? Very few of them just say, buy such and such, and go from there. Most of the time they're trying to give you information about the thing, or make you relate to it in a way that, kind of warms you up to it, right? That kind of stuff. So, my question with, I've got a series of 3 little ads. So my question with these 3 ads is, if you saw this ad in a magazine, which it looks specifically like it has been pulled out of a magazine, what would you say for which of the hierarchy of effects aspects it's trying to achieve? So you could have awareness, knowledge, liking, preference, and conviction, or purchase. Which of these is it aiming at? What do you think? What kind of response does this ad want from the consumer? Yeah, probably just general awareness and a little bit of knowledge, right? It's got a little highlighting of like some of the awards, right? It's telling you it's a triple gold medalist. It's telling you it's an Australian wine. If you already know about it, then it might be like, oh wow, my favorite wine just got some awards, fantastic. But probably I would say this one's probably aiming overall at awareness. It's not really giving us a ton of information, but just enough to make us be like, oh, okay, well, that's some interesting information, here we go. So awareness and, a little bit of knowledge, I think, would be good there, for sure. And maybe if we already knew about it, it might be good as a kind of reminder advertising too, right? Sometimes to remind us to repurchase. Oh yeah, we have the hierarchy of effects shows up if I double click, so fantastic. So what about This one says, we know what's in our applesauce, do you? Read our labels. There's nothing in our fruits and vegetables but fruits and vegetables, and water when necessary for texture and consistency. No preservatives, no artificial colors or flavors, no modified starches, no additives, we guarantee it. And then across the bottom it says, wholesome, nutritious, delicious, tested, and trusted. And there's a form more information. What do you think about this one? Which of these different aspects does it mainly focus on? Yeah, probably knowledge. Like, it's fairly technical, the information that they're giving, and it specifically uses the word know, right, at the beginning. We know what's in our applesauce, do you? So they are informing us, they're enhancing our knowledge. I personally didn't know this. Like, I would have always expected that Heinz, baby products would probably have some preservatives or something in them. So it's an interesting thing to know about the product, right? That we wouldn't know otherwise. Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah. Yeah, the other one was more on the awareness side. It gave a little bit of knowledge, but not too much. This one is definitely more on the knowledge side. And because Heinz is such a well-known brand name, really they don't have to do a lot to get people overall aware of their product, but they may have to educate their consumers or work to get people to like the product, right? Yeah, I would say, like Samantha's saying, could it be awareness? Awareness is usually about, like, the overall product category or about the brand itself. So if we just said something that said, like, Heinz baby food, you know, it had a picture of the baby food or a picture of, like, Heinz, and the mom feeding the baby with Heinz, that probably would be awareness level. But this one, because it has a bit more of a, like, specific technical angle, I would probably put that one more toward knowledge. What about this one here? We have Kelly Clarkson, randomly paired with a watch. Right? Somewhat random, but there we go. What do you think of this one? Just in case you need a reminder, I'll call up the Harry KFS. What do you think? Yeah, but it would probably be in the liking and preference kind of side of things, right? So yeah, I think the idea with using a celebrity in conjunction with your product is that if you like the celebrity and have certain emotions toward the celebrity, you might also have those emotions toward the thing that they're using, right? Like, so this citizen watch. So if we think that, like, Kelly Clarkson is, like, she kind of has, like, a down-home girl kind of reputation, right? So if we think that she's, like, reputable, glamorous, but in an achievable way, right, that kind of stuff, then that may make us more likely to buy the glitzy kind of watch that we see here. I don't know, like, I'm not, like, I haven't watched a lot of shows, for example, that Kelly Clarkson's in, but I wouldn't necessarily think of her in terms of, like, luxury watches. So it's kind of an interesting pairing. But definitely that would be the idea behind this, right? And they're not even showing her, like, wearing a watch, which is interesting. They're just, like, showing you a picture of her in conjunction with the watch, and trying to get those emotions going, for sure. Yeah, I like some of her music, but I've never really, like, looked into her, shows and stuff. Yeah, it's along with the lifestyle kind of aspect, right? She does have, like, quite a nice looking line of furniture on Mayfair. I think I ran across some of her different pieces. So that aspect of, like, the lifestyle that she represents, right? Some of that kind of stuff would be in here. Good. Okay, so we're kind of getting the idea here. What I want to do now, so now we'll move on to chapter 5, so just kind of, like, store that knowledge of what we just did in the back of your head, and we'll come back to haunt you before the end of class, right? And what we're going to do is just kind of, like, move into swoop, a little bit of a broad background kind of side of things. Okay, so overall, you guys know from taking other classes like management, that kind of stuff, that having goals or objectives for your business activities is really quite important, right? We need to know what we are aiming at in order to be able to measure whether our initiatives are successful or not. Okay, so at every level of the organization, they're going to help us in designing programming of various kinds, whether it's internal with employees or whether it's external in terms of clients. They're going to help us overall with making decisions, allocating budgets, and then with the important aspect of knowing whether we're successful or not, we need to have a way to measure, right? And we need metrics. So what Chapter 5 is going to talk about is this overall theme of objectives, and then we're going to dive deep into one method of setting some objectives. All right? So you also probably have heard about setting goals that are what we call SMART goals, right? Or SMART objectives. So they're specific, measurable, I totally forget what A is, reliable and timely, right? Attainable, reliable, and timely. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Okay, you guys are on the ball, yay! So that SMART goal infrastructure is the one that that's like the method that we would use when we're setting our marketing objectives, and that is what our marketing objectives would look like. Now, marketing objectives, we set them for a whole overall marketing plan, so they would be set for all of the 4 Ps, like product, price, place, and promotion. Even though in this particular class we're only talking about promotion, right? But we need to, kind of back it up a little bit periodically and think about how our promotional activities relate back to that overall marketing plan. So all of the aspects of the decisions that you make with your 4 Ps should be focused on helping to achieve your marketing plan objectives, all right? So you may have objectives that are related to like level of profit that you can make that would have impacts on your supply chain management. You may have decisions to make around your locations, right? And like opening new stores, right? Those kinds of things. All of those are going to help to achieve what your goals are for profitability, for returns for shareholders, that kind of stuff. So as promotional professionals, we need to understand the marketing objectives, right? And we need to know, okay, like overall, what are the ultimate deliverables that our promotional campaigns are going to try to achieve. So often we will, or like if we're, accurately setting the SMART goals, we're going to have a time frame to achieve them. The goals have to be realistic and attainable. They shouldn't be like extreme stretch goals, right? They should be ones that we can actually achieve with our activities. And they are going to have to be probably somehow numbers oriented. So we might look at like, increase in amount of sales, like number of units sold. We might look at, like the market percentage that we're earning per unit. We could look at market share. We could look at return on investment. So here are some of the different areas that our marketing objectives could feed into, right? So we can look at, pricing, or so ultimately we're looking at like selling more stuff one way or another, right? And making more money from what we sell. So advertising and promotion is only one of those things. We also are looking at like how we distribute, where we're located, prices, etc. It's the same point that I've just been making all the way through. So these are more, a lot of the time, more types of things that you would talk about, sometimes in like managerial accounting when you're looking at like profit margins and stuff. Numbers of units sold, right? When you're in your economics and finance courses, when you're looking at like things like break-even points, right? That kind of stuff. A lot of your marketing objectives will be related to some of that background knowledge. So it's good to know that it's handy, right? Like there is a reason why we have you take those first year classes. You also will maybe look at things like share of market or, like percentage of certain target markets that you're trying to achieve or target audiences, right? That kind of stuff. So the overall lesson of this slide is this point at the bottom. As people who are working on the promotional campaigns and the promotional programs for a business, the IMC programs, we cannot control a lot of the other things that the other parts of a big company are doing, right? So you don't have control over what's happening with the economy. You don't have control necessarily over the quality of a product. Like if you say it's good and then it's a bad product, you're going to lose sales either way, right? You'll have lots of returns. People will not do repurchasing, that kind of stuff. So our attempts to do as well as we can on the promotional front can be sometimes handicapped by things that are happening in these other areas. Where we do have a lot more control, because it's kind of a bit more of an intimate space and it's just us thinking about the target audience and how to influence them, is with the subcategory of communications objectives, okay? So communications objectives are going to focus on what we specifically want our different target audiences, because we could have more than one, to do. So those would be your behavioral objectives, how you want them to take action or how you want them to behave, what you want them to think, and what you want them to feel. And when we looked at those two ads, definitely you can see how the Heinz ad is focused on what the audience thinks. It's focused on educating the audience about the wholesomeness of the product. And then the Kelly Clarkson ad is focused on what you would feel, right, about those watches. So takeaway number one for today's class is like marketing objectives and communications objectives are two different things. Communications objectives would be more on the level of our individual marketing department and even specifically just within the communications team. So this slide has a comparison. I'm not going to go through every single point, but definitely this point about the communications objectives being more narrow, having them relate to particular communications tasks that we can influence consumer behavior, thoughts, and feelings about is important. And we don't use these marketing objectives as a basis for our programming, but the communications objectives are the basis for our programming, right? We design our campaigns, we design our ads, etc., specifically in order to fulfill communications objectives. So you may be, you probably will have a whole set of communications objectives that you need to achieve, which could be in the course of the year for your, IMC goals for your whole year's worth of activity. They could be set for a specific campaign, or you might even have, one or more objectives that are set as communication objectives for one single print ad or one single television commercial, right? So one single brochure, if you are an ad agency that's working with a client, you need to make sure that you understand what their goals are and what they're wanting from the audience if you're putting together this simple little brochure. So once again, in terms of contrasting them here, we can see there are a few differences in the way that we would phrase our marketing objectives versus our communications objectives. So the marketing objectives, again, they're SMART goals. They might just focus on increasing market share, increasing sales of product. What they're focused on, like you can see, they're looking at things that the company can easily measure internally. Here with the sample communications objectives, the tasks they're using are kind of different, and they always mention the target audience, right? Because we're always really focused on the target audience. The bottom one doesn't, but the target audience is implied. When they say increased conversion rate from 2.7 to 3.75%, that means the target audience percentage of people who see the ad, we want them to have a higher level of them actually purchasing the product or actually clicking through for more information. So here we're looking for a 10% response rate. Here we're increasing awareness. These ones are still measurable, but they're not as easily measurable, right? But you'll notice that they have some things in common with the marketing objectives, like there's still a time frame, and we're still looking, obviously, for that like realistic kind of aspect of what is the ultimate goal here. So, in terms of how we use these objectives, after you look at a promotional plan, or when you're looking at like the maybe like a project brief or something like that that outlines the goals, through those goals you should be able to kind of understand what you need to do and what you need to achieve. If you look at the overall marketing plan, then you should be able to understand, okay, so how does INC connect back, right? We have these goals here for communications. How does that connect back to the overall marketing objectives? And in this class, we don't have to worry about setting the marketing objectives because that'll be somebody else's job. What we're specifically going to worry about is just this more narrow area of the communications objectives. Okay, so now that is so far stage one. Do any of you have any questions about that, or does it seem pretty straightforward so far?
Great job.
Like, there's two types of objectives. One is marketing objectives, one's communication objectives. We care about communication objectives, basically. We're good to go? Okay, awesome. Yeah, excellent. Okay. So, now what I want to think about a little bit for you guys right now is what kinds of communications objectives could we possibly have, right? Like, what could be some of those different goals that we would have with our different target audiences? And so for our purposes within this class specifically, we're going to use that hierarchy of effects model. But that's not the only different possible goals that you could have with your different audiences, right? Communications objectives can focus on anything that you want your target audience to do, think, or feel, okay? So if we just back it up a little bit, I'm going to share my screen again and open a Padlet, and I'll give you the thing for the Padlet. Okay, so don't do anything on the Padlet yet. Let's just set up our parameters. We'll work together to do that. And I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so what I want to talk about right now is just like what are some of the types of like communications goals that you can possibly have, right? So I guess the number one thing to know is, as always, who are you talking to? So I thought that we could do this example for the Carrot Coffee House. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. It tends to be kind of a little bit more of a like baby boomery kind of thing, although it's got some really fun sounding events happening right now. But the Carrot Coffee House is in Edmonton. It's on 118th. They are a really cool kind of organization. I've only been there a couple of times, but they're very neat because they aren't just a coffee house, but they're a cafe, they're an art gallery, and they have a lot of community-oriented like live music events and other kind of little live things. And so 118th Avenue in Edmonton can be a little bit of a like harsh environment, right? There's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of kind of like dodgy looking shops and stuff, although there's some really good food stores and stuff like that. And they sell some like different types of art. You can volunteer there, you can rent the space. They're sort of like a community hub in addition to being a coffee shop. let's see if we can find some images of them. Yeah, you can see a little bit about their location if you haven't been there, right? They have like slam poetry and stuff, which is really fun. And yeah, just like a variety of different fun things going on all the time. So if we were thinking about the Carrot Coffee House, who do you think would be their regular kind of clientele? What do you think? Like, what types of people would be their target audience? Yeah, could be people who live nearby. Okay, so people who live near 118. Perfect. Okay, who else? Artists, yeah. Musicians. Artists and musicians tend to be really supportive of each other's things too, right? And so, yeah, that might be something. We could kind of classify or stereotype people too of like, we could call them like left-wing bohemians, because it's probably people who are more socially conscious who are going to hang out there, right? And who are really committed to like making the world a better place and enjoy quirky experiences too, okay? So I'm just going to get a little more specific. I've never been there. Yeah, organic living, trendy, right? But that's COVID. It is an area where a lot of people who are students do live, because the rents are cheap, right? Because it's like kind of the dodgier area of town. So it can be a little hub for students, and students anyway are known for having a more bohemian lifestyle, right? And maybe being a bit more open to quirky experiences and stuff like that, right? Okay. Study, yeah, and movies, great. Okay, so we have here like a variety of different segments who could be target audiences for a given ad or a given campaign. And so what I would like you guys to do is, you don't have to do like a full, time limited, whatever stuff, but like overall, what would be some goals when we look at these potential target audiences for ads? What would be some goals for either a campaign or an individual ad that might reach these people? So what are some of the things we might want each of these groups to do or to think or to feel about the Carrot Coffee House, right? So if it was regulars, I might want to get them to visit more often. I might want to get them to buy more when they visit. I might have even like specific things, right? Like to get them to buy scones. Perfect, yeah. To get them to bring friends who haven't been here before. Okay, so there are some options. Perfect. Okay, so what we'll do now is let's take a few minutes, like probably like 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes, and everybody pitch in on a Padlet and think about like what would be some of the goals you would have for people who live near 118, for artists and musicians, for left-wing bohemians who have never been there and might not even know the place exists, right? Like some of these people might have no idea this little community pub and coffee house exists. So yeah, see what you can do. You can just hit plus to add something under each of those columns and pick any column. You don't have to limit your yourself to 1. But we'll just take a few minutes to do that. I'm going to turn off my camera while I do it and like drink tea and watch you in action. And if I think of any, then I'll add them too. Okay? So hop in and do that. No, don't worry about groups. Just like actually just go in. If you scroll up, the link to the Padlet is right there, and it's also in Moodle. Yeah, so have some fun with it. Let's see how it goes. With the music night ones, put it, like, phrase it, like, sort of as a goal, right? To get them to attend music nights or to get them to sign up to be there and be musicians at music nights, that kind of stuff. And then that way we know, like, exactly sort of what the slant is, right? Because with musicians, you could want them to come there just as, like, regular clientele, or you could want them to participate in the, they have, like, open mic nights and stuff like that, right? That kind of thing. And the signs around 118 is like, that is would be a tactic. So put that one in the comments, and then like under here where it says add comment. But what goal would you be achieving, right? You'd probably to make them aware of the fact that coffee house exists. You could just pop it in there. Yeah. If you have any ideas about like how to do it, then, you know, and what tools you could achieve, you can put those in the comments, which would be great. Just come up with as many as you can, for sure. Offering host Wi-Fi would be a tactic, but you could rephrase that as a goal as a knowledge-related goal, right? To get them to understand that you offer in-house Wi-Fi would be perfect, right? Students need to know that, otherwise they're not going to come visit you when they're studying, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, everyone's probably afraid to post anything in case I put this as a strategy or tactic.
Everything, yes. Sidewalk walker who wants to swim there. Local.
There was a nice kind of description that I thought I could use for the regulars, so I just moved that forward for whoever put that up. Okay, so it's coming along. I think that we can still probably get a few more. Something that, like, to keep in mind right now as we're looking at them is the difference between what's a goal or what's an objective, which is goals and objectives, I'll use them, sort of as synonyms, versus what's an actual tactic, right, or strategy that you would use. So if it's something that you would do, like the card of events left on locations they shop, hosting an event, flyers and mailboxes in the area, hosting a food festival, offering samples to hosts, that is something that we do because we have set a certain objectives, right? If it's something the target audience feels, thinks, or does and understands, or an emotion they have, then that is your actual objective. In our objectives, we're always focused on the target audience, and we're always trying to get to move them through not knowing about us to actually eventually buying something, right? And we're thinking about the different things that have to happen to make them buy or buy more or that kind of stuff. So to get someone to like you on social media, that would be a goal, right? To get the people around 118th to be aware that you exist in the first place, because if they just moved there, they might have no idea. That would be a goal, right? People are often really intimidated to go into new places that they don't understand, right? If they don't know what's going on or they haven't been there before. So just getting them in the door in the first place would be a huge achievement. And that is something like your posters with coupons or student discounts, that might get them in the door, right? So that would be an example where we can think of what tactic we might want to use and kind of backtrack and think about, okay, well, what goal would it achieve? So I'm just going to move the posters with coupons and student discounts down, right? To get people living near 118th to come in and see what we're all about. The left-wing bohemians who've been there before but not since COVID, we want them to come back, right? So that would be an important goal, to get them to come back and start attending events. more often. Right now, this is like the big goal for all of the fitness industry for sure, right? Getting people back into the gym. And really it's a concern for, performing arts organizations, all that kind of stuff. So this one with like the open mic or sign-up sheet, whoa, what have I just done? I didn't even know that you could do that, whatever I just did. Okay, so edit post. So to attend music nights, and then we can have that like open mic sign-up sheet available all the time so that they can like get prepared beforehand, right? The host an event is good. It's a great tactic to get them in the doors. So what can we do to achieve the objective? We can maybe to get them to come in for the first time. Right? You have to definitely, with the people who've never been there, raise awareness for sure, right? So this would be a good one here as a tactic to yeah, exactly. Like advertising the musician ahead of time, making beer only $4 for students. Bam, right? Like you have some good tactics there. Okay. So is this starting to make sense, do you think? Or for those of you who were thinking more of tactics along the way, this is a good tactic. So what does it achieve, right? Social media shoutouts to performers is great. The free delivery is to hook them right is get them to order, right? So you've got here, your goal is to get them to order. Your technique that you're going to use would be offering the free delivery or whatever. That would be your tactic that you're going to use. But overall, what you want them to do, you want them to start ordering from the care. Okay, does this make sense? Because it's like one of the harder things for people to understand is like, what's an objective versus what's a tactic to achieve the objective. We get so used to, in every single thing we do in this class, usually we're like, okay, what's the tactic, what's the tactic, what's the tactic, that we kind of sometimes can get so focused on the tasks that we have to do as marketers that we don't really have the perspective about why are we doing it, right? What's the aim? Ultimately, this piece of communication or this messaging that we are sending out or whatever, what do we want our target audience to do, to think, to feel along the way, right? So just keeping that focus is really good. So questions about that? Anyone who's still like a bit confused, which is totally fair, right? Lots of people will continue to be confused even until the midterm, but I hope none of you will be. But I know some of you probably will be, but ask me questions. Or add some more and let's see how they're looking. If you were like sort of an insecure one, that kind of stuff, or weren't quite sure what's going on, then ask me some questions. Or if you're someone who put up one where I put in, this is a tactic, what goal is it, would it achieve, then see if you can rejigger it so that you have a goal that would be a good goal. Alright? So see if you can put a few more up or tweak some of the ones that are up there. And even if you weren't the one who put one of those up, you could just like go in and tweak it, right? You guys can all edit if you just click on these 3 dots. So let's see if we can get a few more up. And keep in mind that you can talk about feelings too, right? Like each of these sets of people, they have to kind of get into their mind that, oh, the Carrot would be a good place to go. Oh, it would be fun to go there. Oh, it would be cozy to go there. Or, oh, it seems like a really cool place to go, right? That kind of stuff, right? So you're not just thinking about like them understanding. You're not only thinking about purchase. You're not only thinking about awareness, but you're also thinking about the, kind of relationship-oriented feelings that they would have to a coffee shop. Like a local coffee shop, a good one, you love being there, right? Like, it's so enjoyable to go for coffee sometimes and just hang out and that kind of stuff. There's that, you know, kind of really nice vibe to some of these local coffee shops. So you would want your target audience to, you know, maybe for the people who haven't been there since COVID, you might want them to remember the friendly, cool vibe that they experienced the last time they were in Preordered, right? So do a few more. Let's see what we've got. There's lots more different goals that we could put up because we have so many different target audiences here. So yeah, we'll keep working on this for just a couple more minutes and see what we can do. Okay, yeah, that seems to be coming along nicely. I think that people are overall getting the idea. And we'll keep working on it too, right? Like, it's something that people always have a little bit of trouble with. So I find that, like, starting my goals every single time with 2, right? Like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this in order to, blah, blah, blah. Kind of helps me to keep in mind that I'm focusing on the target audience. And then once we get into more formal ways of kind of setting our goals, and there will be a little bit, kind of it making even more sense, hopefully, not less sense, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. All right, so if you have ideas, you can continue to post them. Right now, I'm going to continue with some of the slides. So we said that for marketing goals, we normally would use our SMART goals framework, right? And that's like very common with all the, kind of upper level of goal setting, management goals, all of that. It's, well recognized. So what we've got for, I hate this. Okay, just a sec. Okay, so what we've got for communications objectives specifically is its own, even more specific than SMART goals, method or approach. Okay, so a long time ago there was this Dagmar report, which was a bunch of members of the marketing industry got together to kind of try and standardize some aspects of how we set goals. Okay, so when we talk about Dagmar goals, it means goals that are written according to a certain framework. Okay, and the reason that it's called Dagmar is because the report was called Define Advertising Goals for Measuring Advertising Results. And the idea was that if you had across the industry the same way of measuring the effectiveness of your advertising and the same types of goals and methods of setting them, then you would end up being able to compare what advertising vehicles were the most effective, which campaigns worked out well, whatever, right? So from an industry perspective, this idea of standardizing the way your goals look is very important. And so here we are treating advertising as, a communication task that's specific and measurable, right? Whereas previous to the Dagmar report, people would just put out advertising and hope for the best. And they didn't necessarily have mechanisms for measuring, and they weren't setting like those specific percentages for the kinds of results that they wanted, right? And so the whole thing about like how to know how to budget your advertising and how much you should spend was really a huge crapshoot because we didn't know, how much to put out there, right? And the amount of money realistically that you can spend on advertising is infinite, right? Like it's very expensive to do some types of advertising, cheap to do others, and you have an infinite amount. There's no limitations apart from your actual budget on what potentially you could do. So you really need to, if you're going to make wise strategic decisions about what you're doing with your advertising, you need to keep in mind what your goals are and what kinds of strategies you can use to achieve them. And then figure out from there how much it's going to cost. So with the Dagmar definition, what we do with our objectives is we narrow down a little bit from just those SMART goals, and we get much more specific about what is going to be included in the goals. So for the objectives, we're always going to include some kind of a benchmark or degree of change thought. So that could be what % of our target audience we're going to target. It could be how much we're going to raise, our share of market by, right? Some of that kind of stuff. What percentage of our target audience we want to try our product, right? Some of those kinds of things. We're always going to have clarity around who our target audience is. So either within the objectives or just above the objectives, we're going to be mentioning the specific target audience. And we also are going to, as was the case with SMART goals, set overall concrete measurable tasks. And we're also, as was the case with SMART goals, going to try to achieve them within a specified time period. Okay, so that aspect of setting the goals or setting the objectives, it should be familiar to you, but where